Hey, welcome in. This is a new one. It's John Dickinson. It's Greg Silver. It's Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the YouTube stream right now, as we get things tipped off in the aftermath of the Warriors losing again, this time to the Dallas Mavericks, as the game ends with the Warriors giving up a whopping 143 points. They scored 133. They made 27 of 54 three-pointers. The NBA record is 29 in a game. The Warriors hit 27. They tied the record for the most in any half in the first half with the 18 of 32 that they made. But awful defense for the Warriors, down 46-33. End of the first quarter, and the Warriors battled, and every time the Warriors would battle, the Mavs would have an answer. So welcome in, Greg Silver. We're here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Greg on hand here for the YouTube-only portion of the show as we roll here on a Sunday night, the game that was not supposed to be, wound up being, and the Warriors end up taking another loss. So they dipped to 14-11 after the 12-3 start. So you look up now, and it's 8 of the last 10 in the loss column for the Warriors. Help's on the way with Dennis Schroder, but help should also be in the way in the form of Draymond Green has to be a starter. At one point you texted me that, and I had already been ranting and raving about it on social media. The Draymond Green off the bench experiment, when your team can't get itself together defense, it's got to end now. Point number one right now. We'll get into all of everything else that happened, Greg. Draymond Green must go back into the starting lineup when the Warriors play next on Thursday.
Yeah, he embraced the Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford, sixth-man microwave off the bench roll when he went on a heater with the three-point shooting. But, yeah, we can't do the Draymond coming off the bench thing. He's too important defensively. He's too important basketball IQ-wise. Draymond has had his issues over the last couple of years, but that has not really been in the form of his play declining, and that was a big conversation with Klay Thompson and wanting a larger extension offer than just the 2 for $48. Bottom line is Draymond Green got in his own way last year, but when he's present and when he's playing basketball and not getting himself in trouble and not being there for his teammates, he is a damn valuable player for this team, and there's a reason Steph Curry would pick him as his teammate.
Yeah, a lot of excellent shooting in this game tonight, but a lot of awful defense. And I just look at the group that started the game for the Warriors tonight. Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Kevon Looney. That group together was awful. Awful defensively, awful at the beginning of both halves. Kerr didn't close the first half with that group, but he did bring them out to start the third quarter. I thought that was a questionable decision considering the offense that you mentioned that Draymond brought to the table, and immediately at least some semblance of a defensive intensity comes to the floor when Draymond is out there. The Warriors had no answer for Luka. A lot of hot shooting both ways in this game, but also I think some horrendous defense both ways. And it just, it winds up being an L that the Warriors are going to have to sit and reflect on here for the next 3 days.
They had everything that they needed and had been lacking offensively. You got Andrew Wiggins going for 29, Kuminga cracked 20, Curry had 26, and Draymond Green off the bench had 21. So you had 4 guys get 20 points when usually it's who can you count on besides Steph? But the problem is they couldn't even slow the Mavericks down for a stretch of even 3 minutes. I mean, Luka Doncic was fantastic tonight. He was 14 of 17 going into that fourth quarter, and then Wiggins was finally giving him a hard time and he was missing. But the answers for him were just entirely non-existent. And then on top of that, you had Klay Thompson contributing with 29 of his own and 7 threes. You had Kyrie Irving. And so you can have guys for the Warriors, other role players be chipping in, but if there's not going to be any defense or any stopping, we're just talking about the kind of losses they had last year.
Yeah, the Mavs started 9 for 9 and 3 for 3 from 3. Wiggins was aggressive. He had 9 of the Warriors' first 11 points, as you mentioned, but they were down 23-11. Klay Thompson hadn't even been a part of the action at that point at all. Klay does end up getting a revenge game for Klay, I suppose. He had a big stretch, hit a couple of big buckets in the third quarter, 8-point third quarter. He had a couple of threes down the stretch in the fourth quarter that helped keep the Warriors at arm's length from Dallas. And it really was Dallas got off to that lead, and the Warriors just never really able to make their presence felt in this one after that. And Clay ends up with 29 points. So, 7 of 11 from three. So Klay Thompson with an excellent game, a plus 21, which is the highest of anybody on the Mavs roster. So much more impactful and efficient, and really kind of doing it all. Klay Thompson game in his second, the unscheduled originally appearance at Chase Center, the bonus game thanks to the Emirates Cup. And the Warriors lost to the Rockets in Houston going back to last Wednesday night. But, I mean, just bad defense. And kickouts and drives and helping off of corner 3-point shooters. Buddy Hield and Kuminga, specifically in the first quarter, I thought were just lost defensively. I'm going to say it. This is going to be my first. It's going to be my first gutless of the year I thought the first quarter was gutless. I thought the first quarter with that starting group allowing the 46 points and just no resistance, because the Warriors were hitting their threes. The Mavs were hitting their threes. The Warriors were not scoring when they would get into the lane. At one point, the Warriors, I think, were 8 for 20 on twos, and that was even despite the fact that they were making a ton of threes. The Mavs were hitting inside. They were hitting outside. They were just getting whatever they wanted. So I thought it was a gutless effort tonight from the Warriors starters defensively. Yes, in part, hot shooting, that makes it look bad, but the attention to detail, the effort, the energy, the intensity was not there from the opening tap, and it set the Warriors back in a manner that they were not able to overcome at any point all night.
Yeah, that's a shame, because the whole time I kept thinking about the Rockets game. And granted, the Rockets are a really good defensive team, but you combine those two games and you have one where it's like a 50-point win and the other where it's about a 60-point loss. And it was a tale of two entirely different games this week. It was defense and lack of execution and poor decision-making preventing you from getting enough offense, which is why you didn't go to Vegas and pursue this NBA Cup. But then you come back home and the offense is there. You're shooting well in front of your home court and your home building, but it's not happening anything defensively. And I do want to say a little what's up to the YouTube chat, because I'm not going to be here forever. CB, Golden State starters, minus 74. Dallas, plus 79.
Yeah.
I think that right there earns the G tab.
It was. I mean, Clay was excellent. Luka from the start, 45 points. The Warriors had 4 20 or more scores for the first time in almost a year. Do you remember the last time the Warriors had 4 20-point scores?
In almost a year.
It happened.
Celtics game?
It happened last season. It was the game at the end of January that the Warriors lost in double overtime to the Lakers. Which was their low point of the season, actually, that night. When the Lakers won that game by a point. They had just lost to Sacramento a couple of nights earlier by a single point in an extremely high-scoring, defense optional kind of a game. And it was Steph and Klay Thompson on that night, along with Jonathan Kuminga. He was the third for the Warriors. And I'm trying to see, it was Andrew Wiggins. So on that night where they lost to the Lakers in double overtime, Steph, Klay, Kuminga, and Wiggins were the 4. Tonight, it winds up being Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, again, 3 of the 4, and Draymond Green taking the spot of Klay Thompson in the 20-plus. But a lot of offense, and it really is crazy to think that you could lose a game in the NBA where you make 27 three-pointers. I mean, you're 2 away from the all-time record. You do it at a 50% clip for the night, and you end up losing the game by 10. I mean, that is bonkers. That is like, how does that even happen?
I'm really curious to learn what kind of tone Steve Kerr has in postgame, and I'm sure you and Kyle are going to get into it when you transition over to the radio, but Steve has been pretty harsh and outspoken at times on this team to start the year, and we haven't gotten a lot of angry Steve in high frequency over the years, but this year we're a third of the way through the season, and he's already come out hot a few different times, whether that be on his own team, whether that be about the officiating like it was the other night. So kind of curious, because Steve has talked about defense, and even in a more measured press conference since the Warrior game, he went on a couple-minute-long answering a series of questions from Monty Poole of NBC Sports Bay Area, talking about how the team's identity is defense. They are the fourth-rated defensive team, or at least were going into the night. So you got to think that Steve Kerr's pretty upset, despite his team moving the ball well, hitting a lot of shots, that defensively they were never able to turn off the faucet for Dallas. And I mean, I don't want to say they didn't have a chance. They got it to within 5. Draymond missed Kuminga on a lob that would have cut it to one possession, but it's not like they took it by the horns and had a lead late. Like, Dallas always had an answer to keep it at a comfortable enough lead when the Warriors sort of made a push.
Yeah, it was close, but it never really felt to me like the Warriors were going to win the game. It just felt like it felt fraudulent, honestly. The fact that the Warriors, they'd make a run and you're looking up, why is this game even remotely close? Oh, the Warriors have made 18 threes in the first half. Like, it was just ridiculous when you look at that, total output, and then the fact that the defense was so bad. And again, it was really the first quarter that was the story of this one. 46, and look, you give up 35, 33, 29 in the other quarters, but the 46 and being down 13 after one, I mean, yeah, the Warriors made their runs, but again, the Mavs had every answer. And again, I just don't think this Warriors team is good enough overall to be taking. Steve Kerr called Draymond Green, in his mind, the best defender, one of the best defenders ever, best defender in the game now, and yet he's coming off the bench. And again, I get it. It's better for Kuminga. You could make the case it's better for Draymond. I'm not even buying the fact that it's better for Draymond. It's certainly not what's best for this team.
It might be better for Draymond in the sense of over the long haul, he's not having to play a bunch of 5, but it's not better for the team if you can't have Draymond be in your starting lineup. Forget it. He's going to be in the closing lineup as long as he's out of foul trouble. Tonight, I thought he was terrific defensively. I mean, I know it's hard to give a compliment to anybody defensively, JD, when the team gives up 143 points, but Draymond stopped a couple of drives and passes in the paint all by himself tonight when no one else really had an answer. So it's rare to have somebody defend all 5 positions, not possessions, all 5 positions at an elite level, and he's still able to do that. And so for that reason, I think you need him out there, not just as what he can do with his own abilities defensively, but he's got to be a little bit of a defensive floor general when you have a mix of vets and younger guys that need their contributions now.
Yeah, Warriors lose it 143-133. I do want to dive into the YouTube chat here earlier than usual, as Sunday Night Football is coming to a conclusion up in Seattle, with Green Bay looking to take care of the Seattle Seahawks. And once that game does go final here, and it is the final 2 minutes of that one, we will take a quick timeout here on YouTube, and then we will be joined over on KNBR. And we'll open up the phone lines at that point, 808-KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll open up the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. We'll have full sounds of Dubs OT, reaction from the Warriors locker room, reaction from Steve Kerr, reaction from Klay Thompson, as well as Klay gets revenge in his second opportunity to come back and play against his former mates here in the Bay. But yeah, on the YouTube chat, just kind of starting from the top here, and I haven't mentioned Brandon Pajemski to this point. Buco Sports, first. Look, part of the reason you get Dennis Schroder, and I'm going to talk about Dennis Schroder on the radio side of it. Part of the reason you get Dennis Schroder is because Brandon Pajemski just hasn't played well to this point this season. I think it's way bigger than Pajemski, and that's why I haven't really mentioned Pajemski much. Like, it goes without saying that Schroeder's going to play he's going to play some of Pajemski's minutes. Pajemski was pretty bad tonight. And I mean, the stretch that he had when he came in for Steph Curry for about 2 minutes there in the fourth quarter, with the game kind of hanging in the balance, so the Warriors going to be able to survive those minutes.
It was horrendous.
It was as bad as I think Brandon Pajemski's played this season at any point. And he's had some moments where he's been pretty bad. There's been some moments where maybe it hasn't quite been as bad, but he can't make a shot, so it looks worse than it is. All told, it's bad. And tonight, I think, was among the worst. So part of Schroeder, in addition to secondary scorer for now and playmaker for sure on this team closing out games, and another guy you can just put the ball in his hands, Pajemski's going to be playing less. I think Buddy Hield, who was bad tonight, also is going to be playing less.
I would say so. I mean, Hield at least is unique in that only Steph on the team can get on that type of heater from the perimeter, unless you're Draymond Green tonight in the first quarter.
Well, Buddy Hield was really bad tonight.
Yeah,
that was that's where I was going, was just more, but Hield, I mean, the last month for Buddy Hield hasn't been pretty. After he got off to a really
it's living
good start.
true to the Buddy Hield cycle that's going around social media. I also want to give some love, of course, to our friend Robert, because he's thirsting for a silver lining. He said it's about time for a silver lining. I think there were things to look at offensively tonight. It's good to see guys like Wiggins and Kuminga get going and get comfortable. It's hard to really rave about the offense when the defense had nothing to show for. But all in all, when you have 4 20-plus point scores, that counts for something. The real silver lining, though, is what we're getting at and what you're going to continue getting at when you switch to the radio and do Dubs OT, and that is you have somebody coming in as a reinforcement when you had to give up nothing that you would have this season. I love D'Anthony Melton. I wish he could have played more games for this team, but you weren't going to get him back this season. Injuries suck. It's part of the game. And now you have just Melton's contract and a second-round pick, 2 second-round picks net that you gave up. So to have that come in and know that you didn't sacrifice anything of what you could get this year, you have another ball handler coming in. That's good for nights when Pajemski's not himself. To just have another playmaker, and I think the combination of Schroder, who's great with the ball in his hands, and Steph, who's the best off-the-ball guard of all time, is going to be an extra pain in the butt for defenses when they get together.
And now they've got 3 days to figure it out. Word was, at least pregame, that they were actually going to practice tomorrow and Tuesday. Typically, the Warriors with a couple of days would, and they already just did practice the last 2 days before today. Typically, they'd probably take tomorrow off. Kerr made it sound like they're going to practice tomorrow to get Schroder involved and in the mix. Practice on Tuesday, fly to Memphis on Wednesday, and then it rolls here as they'll play Memphis on Thursday. They'll play Minnesota on Saturday, and then be back home at that point. But no, Schroder is they gave up nothing to get him. D'Anthony Melton was going to be out for the year regardless. And yeah, he immediately becomes the number 2 playmaker and scorer. I mean, he walks onto this Warriors roster, the number 2 scorer, if you take his averages from Brooklyn. We'll get into what Steve Kerr had to say pregame coming up in the radio portion of Dubs OT. But I think he's going to, if he's not starting immediately, he's going to be starting in pretty short order. It may not be the first game, but it's going to be within the first week and a half. And I think at that point, he will be somebody that when teams really try to take Steph Curry away, the ball will be in his hands to look to attack and make plays for himself, make plays for others. I do think he fits, as much as he is more of a pick and roll isolation kind of a player. I do think he fits better than people think in this Warrior system. And Steve Kerr flat out said it in the pregame that they have to get better pick and roll. They have to get better. And I think that helps. I think he works well with Jonathan Kuminga, whereas now you're not down the stretch forcing the ball to Kuminga and saying, hey, Jonathan, go to work, because nobody wants that. It needs to come in the context of some semblance of an offense with an actual ball handler. And the way teams had taken Steph away, a lot of the time it had left Kuminga in that go be KD, go be Kawhi, kind of mode. That ain't it. Like, you're not going to win games with that. So having Schroder be another facilitator to where Kuminga can more easily get his, I think is going to be good for this Warriors team. So I like Schroder. You like Schroder. Before we wrap up this segment here, I do want to get to a few more here in the YouTube chat. Alpha, not enough defensive intensity tonight, JD. Way too many wide open threes for Dallas. Wide open threes, too many shots at the rim. I thought that was really the worst part. Rebel to Sounds, Warriors were never going to win with the way the Mavs shot the ball. Well, you could flip the script on that with the 27-54 from 3 and say,
so I said you got to consolidate the Rockets game and this game. Just have one of the worst losses and greatest wins.
Yes.
Even it out, 1-1.
As many are saying, Rebel to Sounds, Buddy Hield is not that guy. Schroder replaces Melton. That means less pods. Exactly. And that was the other big theme was really when Melton went down, it was forcing Pajemski and Hield to almost play no matter what. Whereas when Melton was here, if those guys were not having a good night, then they don't play. If they are having a good night, then they do play. I think all is fair as far as that is concerned. Robert, defense was a joke. Never had a real chance. That's kind of where I am on it. The 46 into the first quarter, and look, some of it, if one team goes cold, there's still plenty of time in an NBA game to figure it out from that point. But when you're that bad and you let the opposition gain that much confidence that quickly, it's tough when you've got Luka and Kyrie and Klay Thompson. It's tough to slow those guys down. PJ Washington,
Grimes was drilling threes.
Once they get on a heater, it's tough to slow down a team like that. And let's be honest, when the Warriors and Mavs played the first time, the Warriors were playing much better and more connected basketball in that 9-2 start. Since then, the Warriors have been much more disconnected, and since then, the Mavs have been much more connected. They didn't get off to a great start. The loss here a little over a month ago was part of that. They're playing much better and more team-oriented collective basketball.
Well, let me ask you a question, and I want to know if you remember the answer to it. Steph Curry was obviously the hero of that game, scoring the last 12. Who did you call the unsung hero?
Well, Looney was one, right?
Looney was one.
But
D'Anthony Melton,
D'Anthony Melton
had the steal and the three-pointer to start that run, and that was the game he got hurt. So now you got a guy coming in, and I think the comment that Robert makes directly after the defense won is going to be a really good talking point for us as a station moving forward.
Yes.
Schroder trade is something. It's definitely a positive. They did not have to give up much. The Schroder trade alone is not enough to make them a true competitor or a contender. That's got to be the start of something, but it's not like Schroder coming is a transformational move that is going to make them all of a sudden in the conference finals discussion.
Yeah, look, this needs to be the start. And I know there was some discussion, and I'm going to get into it. We're going to play what Shams had to say, which is a different version of something he said like 5 different times in the last month. But the Warriors are still looking for a star. I think that's due diligence at this point, continuing to look for a star. You may come down to a point as you get closer to the deadline where that star is not there for you, and you're going to have to say, all right, I'll go ahead and look to update and upgrade a couple of more role players and have that still enhance this team for some semblance of a stretch run. I said it yesterday on Just Dubs. I don't think the Warriors can wait around until February 6th. I think they have to figure it out as soon as they possibly can. There was the reporting about the unwillingness to, Kuminga was going to have to be in a deal if they were going to get Cam Johnson from Brooklyn. I'm okay on December 15th saying you're not going to trade Kuminga for Cam Johnson. But at some point, you might have to look in the mirror and decide if you're not going to pay Jonathan Kuminga like he's going to be a future star, if that's not a move that might be worth making. And it might be, because I'll give you another guy who was a DNP tonight, Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson did not play coach's decision tonight as the Warriors give up 143. You're telling me more Kyle Anderson wouldn't, and again, Kyle's a 4, he's a 4 or a 5 on this team. So I don't want to hear anybody, no Kyle Anderson, but Pods, no Kyle Anderson, but Buddy Hield. They're not in the same boat. If you made a move for a Cam Johnson, Kyle Anderson would be playing more because he's complimentary to Cam Johnson. He's complimentary to Wiggins. He's complimentary to Draymond. Kyle Anderson has gotten caught in this. Kuminga's got to play the 4 and start. Draymond's coming off the bench. You have Kevon Looney playing well and want to get some minutes for TJD. All of those things that I just mentioned are why Kyle Anderson gets a DNP coach's decision tonight. So if you clear up that glut, it opens up minutes for Kyle Anderson, who's a high IQ player and a high defensive intensity player. So let's call it for this portion. On that note, Greg, some final thoughts just from you on that. We're going to take a quick timeout on YouTube, and then we're going to tip this thing off over on KNBR, and we'll continue with the same YouTube stream as well as the Warriors lose to the Mavs 143-133.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any grand thought at the moment other than it's hard to really marvel at the offense when you never really had a chance defensively. I mean, I know that Luka and Kyrie is a really tough duo to stop in today's modern NBA. I'm not saying that's not the case, but the bottom line is that is the case to have more than one great offensive player on most NBA teams that are going to make it to the second round, if not all of the top 8 in this league. So I think that it was good to see offensive going. I mean, it was fun to be at this game and watch the Warriors kind of lose the All-Star game. And, that was something. But this just kind of gets looped into another close-ish loss that is a reminder that the Warriors are a decent team. They got some pieces, but they got a ways to go. And I'm looking forward to seeing our first look at Dennis Schroder and then evaluating it from there.
Yeah, and Schroder expected to play on Thursday as the Warriors will take on Memphis. And, of course, we'll have Dubs OT for you after that one. That's an earlier start on the West Coast, 5 o'clock Pacific time, early start. But Dubs OT for tonight, we're just getting started. Big thanks to Greg Silver, as always. Make sure you're watching and listening to him and Greg Papa tomorrow, 10 a.m. on KNBR. And Greg, of course, still contributing to this program as well. Greg, have a great night, man. Really appreciate you. And we'll talk again here this week.
Have a great night. Enjoy the festivities at Harmonic and enjoy your time with a cutout version of Lindy Waters.
Yeah, Lindy Waters didn't play terribly tonight either, actually. One of the few players that off the Warriors bench that brought it. So 808 KNBR, we'll pause here quickly on YouTube. We'll come back on the radio on the Sports Leader.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, you can just unplug it straight. And then I am going to take that out. Oh, I need one little thing out of my bag. I should have put this out already.
Nice and easy. Well, plus, I mean, I never mind doing the one segment stuff because it helps me kind of iron out my thoughts before I gotta do it with Papa.
I might want to do if this really works out seamlessly. I might want to do more of the YouTube if you start on
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's a good way to get you on the first segment too.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT
Can't wait.
with John Dickinson
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
on KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Yeah, the Warriors made 27 of those three-pointers, 27 of 54, but it's not enough. Crazy to think. And the Mavs win 143-133. It's a pleasure to welcome you in here to Dubs OT with JD on the radio here on KNBR after the Packers and the Seahawks and Sunday Night Football. As we continue to be live here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City, we've got Kyle Haar at the controls. Cheers to you, Kyle Haar, in our San Francisco studios here as we started this thing on YouTube and Twitch, and now we are live on KNBR as well. So 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627 to jump in and join the conversation as the Warriors now lose for the 8th time in the last 10 games after the 12-3 start. They are 14-11 on the season, and a couple of more days off for Golden State. Klay Thompson revenge game, better than the one he had a month ago in the building that sits behind me. Klay Thompson ending up being a team best plus 21. We were talking about it with Greg Silver, who joined me on the YouTube portion of the program here from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. But, the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line open, and also the phone lines are now open at 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Already folks chiming in on the text line of the 408. JD, I feel like this kind of game showed why the Warriors need another great defender like Jimmy Butler, especially in a game like this where a team has that many weapons to beat you. I think it also shows, and here's my big take for those who've been watching on YouTube. I'm going to bring it to the airwaves here at KNBR. I'm done with the Draymond Green is not going to start thing. And look, I understand it may be beneficial to Draymond from a selfish standpoint because it keeps him away from a management standpoint, keeps him away from guarding the other team's center off the top of games. I understand the fact that the Warriors would like to play Draymond at the 4 with a Kevon Looney or with a Trace Jackson Davis next to him as they did at the beginning of the year. But the bottom line is Jonathan Kuminga is also a 4. And Jonathan Kuminga right now is one of the Warriors' best and most important players, as is Draymond Green. And I don't think this Warriors team is good enough to have Draymond Green, one of the best defenders in the history of the game, coming off the bench. Like they do not have the luxury to be having Draymond Green come off the bench and then watch as the Mavs get 22 points in the first 4 minutes of the game with Draymond not in there. And again, this is not an indictment of Kuminga at all. It's a statement that the Warriors have to have their best players play if they want to maximize their opportunity to win games. And that means if Kuminga has to start at the 4, which he does if he's going to start, then Draymond Green has to start at the 5. And you have to figure out another way in the rotation to get Draymond off of that center spot for different stretches in games, because Draymond coming off the bench is not something that I see working for this team in a grand scale if they're going to be successful. And let's be honest, they have nearly wasted the entire 12-3 start to begin the year now with losses in 8 of the last 10 games. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch as well, as the Warriors had 4 20-point scorers for the first time since last January when they lost in double overtime to the Lakers, with Andrew Wiggins leading the way tonight, 29, Stephen Curry, 26. Kuminga had 20, real good offensive game for Kuminga. Also had 6 assists. Kuminga, again, nothing really to complain about. Defensively, I thought he was lost a little bit early in the game, but as was Buddy Hield. The Warriors defensively, it was a whole unit thing. It was not a Kuminga-specific thing or a Hield-specific thing, but that whole unit was awful tonight. And we already had a couple of people in the YouTube chat chime in. When you just look at the plus-minus and what was going on for the Warriors, I mean, the starters tonight, Wiggins minus 20, Hield minus 19, Kevon Looney minus 15, Kuminga and Curry minus 10. So when Kuminga and Curry played with bench players, a la Draymond Green, Lindy Waters tonight, GP2, they were a net positive with those groups. But when they played with the starting group, and I think Steve Kerr missed the boat here by not inserting Draymond Green into the starting lineup to begin the third quarter after he played as effectively as he did in the first half, and the Warriors were hanging around somehow only down seven at the half, even though it was pretty ugly. And, man, 81-74 at the break, each team with a 40-point quarter in the first two. And so I think that was a misstep from Steve Kerr not starting Draymond Green at the center with Kuminga and Wiggins and Curry and Buddy Hield to begin that third quarter. But the bottom line for me is, even with the Dennis Schroder acquisition, even with the Warriors looking to continue to add, whether it's a star or more role players over the next near 2 months until the trade deadline, you got to play your best players. And you got to play your best players in some of the most important minutes of the game. And the first quarter is important. And the first 6 minutes of a game is important. And again, if you've got a team chock full of talent and depth that's all connected to where you can have a future Hall of Famer coming off the bench, then by all means do it. And I didn't hate the notion of the Warriors doing it in the first game Draymond Green came back for, but I hated it tonight, and I hated the fact that Kerr didn't get away from it tonight. Draymond has to start for the Warriors here moving forward. More thoughts on this one as the Warriors fell down 46-33 after one. Mavs were 9-9 shooting to start. Wiggins was aggressive. Good Wiggins night offensively, but the Warriors were down 23-11 immediately. That's before Draymond Green's even in the game. Then Draymond hits 3 straight threes to pull the Warriors from 19 to 13. Klay Thompson had knocked down a 3 in between there. And so the Warriors, driving kicks, lobs. I mean, everything the Mavs do that makes them special offensively, the Mavs are doing. Luka going off. He got extremely comfortable early in this game, and it carried him to what ended up being a 40-plus point night, 45 for Luka. I mean, he had a triple-double early in the third quarter. I mean, 45, 11, and 13. I mean, he was just on one for the entirety of the night as he controlled the game. Warriors down 13, then down 15. The three-point shooting saved the Warriors tonight, really prevented them from getting blown out. Both teams shot the three ball extremely well. Warriors shot it historically well. 27 of 54 for the Warriors. I mean, just incredible. They hit 18 in the first half. 18 tied the most three-pointers in a half in NBA history, and the Warriors were down 7. The Warriors made 2 fewer than the most three-pointers in NBA history for any team in any game. 29 is the all-time NBA record. Warriors made 27 on 50% shooting. Lost by 10. If that doesn't tell you how bad the Warriors were defensively, Mavs hit 21 of 41 from three-point range. So they were just as hot in a smaller scale and got whatever they want at the free throw line, got whatever they want on the interior, and it was more than enough for most of the night, even though the score was close, for the Mavs to keep the Warriors at arm's length. So 808 KNBR, let's get it going with Giovanni in Santa Cruz here on the phone lines as Dubs OT begins here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Giovanni.
Hey, JD. How's it going?
Doing all right tonight, my man. Another tough loss, and wow, tonight really was tough opponent in Dallas when they're cooking and Luka's going with Kyrie and Klay and everybody else. But the Warriors have to be better and more felt defensively than they were tonight.
Well, yeah, I don't think tonight's loss was as bad as it looks. I think it was, there's a lot of positives to take from this one. It was just a really special game from Luka. I mean, he's never going to do that, he's not going to do that a lot of times. I mean, that was just a monster game. So I thought we took care of the ball a little bit better than the previous game, only 10 turnovers. And I mean, we shot the ball really well. So I think we can build on this. And I don't know do you know if Pajemski has done a G League stint by chance?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think he did last year. I don't think he's going to the G League. I think he's going to play less. Appreciate you. I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna go to the G League. I think you send somebody to the G League when you really want them to play a lot, and gain confidence, which I think you could make the case Podziemski's lost a little confidence, which is hurting him and in turn hurting the team. I think just the mere fact that Dennis Schroder is going to be on this team is going to help Brandon Podziemski because he's immediately going to play less. And I think right now he needs to play less. It was rough. And he only played 16 minutes tonight, but somebody's got to be the backup point guard with Stephen Curry not playing. And so, it was a brutal Podziemski night offensively with the 3 points. And when he got trapped there in the corner and threw up that awful shot there in the fourth. But I don't know. I don't think he's going to the G League, but I think he is going to get a little bit of a breather and some games where he may not play or may play sparingly once they get Schroder involved and cooking.
Okay. Well, I just thought it, might be helpful for him to, develop a little bit more down there in Santa Cruz. And I don't know, I think Lindy Waters is playing a little bit better than Pods at this moment.
Yeah, they don't really play the same position, which I think is, again, why it comes back to Schroder. Like Waters was playing a lot of three tonight because the Warriors are so void of small forwards on this team, and I think they feel he can guard up a little bit. Wiggins is really their only small forward on the team that's healthy right now. I think they'll use Moses Moody there, but Moody's out. They don't, as we've talked about a ton on this show, they don't view Kuminga as a three, so he just doesn't play the three. So they were using Waters a little bit at the three. I think he may end up playing more than Buddy Hield moving forward some because he does have the ability to be, I think, helpful in more ways than just shooting compared to Buddy Hield. But I think you're going to see less Podziemski with Schroder taking a lot of the secondary ball handling and the backup point guard. I think Schroeder's going to start at the two and be the backup point guard. I don't think Podziemski's going to not play at all, but I think he's going to play significantly less than he has recently, and the Warriors are going to have to figure out another rotation to try and figure out how the front line is going to work as well. Because right now what's been going here for these last 10 games or so has just not been working.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking my call, JD, and have a great show.
Yeah, thank you, Giovanni. Appreciate it. Giovanni, our tip-off caller of the night here on Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 as the Warriors lose 143-133 to the Dallas Mavericks. Warriors give up 81 in the first half. They were only down 7. Great offensive output tonight for the Dubs with the 4 20-plus point scores and the 27 three-pointers made, but awful defense against a really good team. The Mavs are a team that was in the finals and considers themselves to be a championship contender. I don't want to make too much of the defeat against a really good team, and obviously it was good to see Klay Thompson again, and Klay really hurt the Warriors in this one in a much more efficient way than he did back here on November the 12th in the game that the Warriors won with the 15-5 run in the final 12 minutes. But big takeaway, Draymond's got to go back into the starting lineup. And he's got to go back into the starting lineup at the 5 because Kuminga has to play the 4 with Wiggins, probably Schroder and Stephen Curry. And the Warriors are going to have a couple of days to try and figure that out. But, yeah, Podziemski, tough, rough, bad minutes from Brandon Podziemski in this one. Just kind of running through some other thoughts on the game. Just all the answers for the Mavs in this one. Warriors down 7 at the half, some second half thoughts. Again, I thought it was a misstep that Kerr stuck with the same lineup that he started the game with. Klay had 8 in the first half. He then had a quick 8 in the third quarter. As he started heating up, Warriors found themselves down 12 and then 14 and then 16 at 114-98 late in the third. A 9-0 run keyed by Kuminga, keyed by some defense. And the Warriors ended up salvaging with the 9-0 run, a 33-33 tie in that third quarter. They were only down 7 going to the fourth. And then Kerr went back to the starters, the guys who started the game, started the third quarter in the fourth quarter. And that group had been poor all night. They held their own, actually made a little bit of a run to cut it to within 3, 118-115. And then the Mavs go on a 14-5 run over the next 4 minutes. And it was Luka and it was Kyrie with a quick 5. Steph Curry had to sub out because of the new rotation. He's got to have 2 subs per half. because he's playing the first 6 minutes, then coming back in after 3, then he's playing another 6 to 8 minutes, and so you got to give him that second sub to keep him fresh for the final 4 or 5 minutes of the game. And when Curry went out, the Warriors unable to survive the awful Podziemski sequence that we mentioned. Luka had an and one after a Lindy Waters 3, then Klay Thompson hit a couple of threes, and ultimately the Dallas Mavericks prevail in this one, 143 to 133 is the final. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, 415 on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. 4 quick points, actually 3 from the lawman. And he says, we need Dre to start. The whole squad needs to start making free throws, and Pods needs to step it up. 3 quick thoughts in this one. And so, I would agree with all 3 of those things. Man, Podziemski and Trace Jackson-Davis, rough sophomore seasons to this point. It feels a little unfair. I mean, Trace Jackson-Davis actually was a net positive tonight and had 6 boards in 14 minutes. It feels unfair to put TJD in the same category as Podziemski coming off of the game tonight. But, yeah, Podziemski's got to find it. And I think playing less for a period of time probably will be what it takes to get Podziemski, back in order. And sometimes you need a little bit of a breather. Take a couple of games off or play some limited minutes for a couple of games and just kind of see the game a little bit. And look, they're still going to need Brandon Podziemski to play. But I think the pressure that Podziemski had put on himself and that maybe the Warriors had inadvertently put on him has allowed this thing to snowball to a point where he's really, really struggling offensively. And the Warriors have too many one-way players right now. They have too many players that are either only good on offense or only good on defense, and not enough players that are good on both ends of the court. And I think, when you look at it, that's something that they're going to have to shore up. Buddy Hield, only good on offense at this point. Kuminga on a lot of nights, only good on offense. Tonight, I don't think it was his worst night defensively by any stretch. He scored 20 points. I think Kuminga played pretty well tonight. Did it efficiently. I like the 9 of 15. He hit a couple of threes. I don't think he was hunting shots. No issue with the offense. There were some times where he fell asleep a little bit defensively, but he healed as well. Draymond is scoring and defending. And, Lindy Waters is somebody who tonight, effective offensively, predominantly an offensive player. TJD, predominantly a defensive player. Peyton, predominantly a defensive player. Podziemski has not been really either. Kyle Anderson didn't play tonight, predominantly a defensive player and a connector when he's out on the court for this Warriors team. So we'll go ahead and pause here. We'll come back. We'll dig into the YouTube chat. We've also got sounds of Dubs OT coming up, but I want to hear from you on the phone lines here and in the chat. 808 KNBR as we shift to some of the bigger picture conversation surrounding the Warriors. How do you use Dennis Schroder? And how long should the Warriors continue to have Draymond Green coming off the bench? You've heard my thoughts on the latter. I'll let you know how I think the Warriors need to use Dennis Schroder coming up. And in Sounds of Dubs OT, we'll let you know what Steve Kerr had to say about the acquisition of Schroder. We'll hear from Shams Charania of ESPN on what the Warriors are still looking to do to enhance this roster. And more thoughts on this one as well from Harmonic Brewing and Thrive City as the Warriors lose to the Mavs 143 to 133. It's KNBR 104.5 at 680, the sports leader.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the sounds of silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Yeah, that was a bad stretch. Bad Pizzachemsky stretch. It looked like two different times he could have got the shot off or at least made a pass, got the defender in the air, and he was slow to pull the trigger. I think lack of confidence, just not having his game up to the speed of the NBA in that moment, whether lack of confidence is part of it or not. And he got stymied, and it did not look good, and it led to a three going back the other way. Mavs beat the Warriors 143-133. We're back here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. It's time now for Sounds of Dubs OT, and we're going to use that as an opportunity and appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. As we started this thing about an hour ago on YouTube and did the first half hour on YouTube, then joined on KNBR after Sunday Night Football, and now continuing here on KNBR as the Warriors dip to 14-11, 7-5 on the home floor. Mavs end up winning this one by 10. Let's switch gears a little bit and get into the acquisition of Dennis Schroder, and we're going to hear from the head coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr, on that as he addressed it. Couple of clips here. First, on the allure of Schroder as somebody that he specifically and the Warriors have competed against in different venues over the years. And so, yeah, you look at DeAnthony Melton. He's not the defender. Schroder is not the defender that Melton was in the same kinds of ways, but he does get his hands in the passing lane. He does force steals. He is a pesky defender. He is kind of a nuisance-like defender. Maybe not the high IQ team defender that Melton was. Maybe not the guy who's going to guard up a position necessarily or up a couple of positions like Melton could. But you're getting a much more explosive offensive player by comparison to Melton. Melton was much more of a get in where you fit in type of an offensive player, and that really worked for the Warriors. Schroeder's a wild card. Schroeder's a wild card offensive player. A lot of pick and roll, a lot of put the ball in his hands, a lot of attack and get into the paint and hit a little pull up, a lot of get all the way to the rim, a lot of get to the free throw line. He's shooting the three ball better than he has at different points in his career, right around 38%. He's also moving the ball in more of the lead role with Brooklyn, 18-6, basically, for Dennis Schroder. And so I think there are ways in which you could look on the outside and say, hey, this guy's much more isolation, pick and roll, and not necessarily the Warriors' style of player in particular offensively, but he is somebody, as Steve Kerr said, who's kicked his ass in some of the international competition and the Warriors' ass in some big games in the regular season. You saw it back here a couple of weeks ago when the Warriors got back off of that road trip, and they played Brooklyn the week of Thanksgiving, and the Nets came back from 17 down to win. Schroder was all up in the Warriors mix in that game in helping them close it out and hand the Warriors that loss. He's really done it on 3-4 different teams against the Warriors, including the Lakers in that 23. Kerr said 22, but 23 playoff series that the Warriors ended up losing 4-2. So, yeah, Schroder, he fits and he doesn't fit. So I think that's interesting, but the Warriors need a spark, and so much has been made of the loss of Melton and how much it's impacted things. The Warriors were 9-2 when he went down, and they did end up getting to 12-3. They won 3 of the next 4 after Melton went down in the first matchup against Dallas. But since then, it's 8 of the last 10 in the loss column, and they've been forced, as I mentioned, to play Podziemski on nights where maybe he isn't playing well and still play him a lot. And Curry, even in press conferences, is saying, hey, Podziemski's still going to play, and he's going to play a lot, and we want him to play. So that's part of that equation. And Buddy Hield's the other one. So now I think it gives him, a guy who the ball is going to be in his hands a significant amount. I think he's an immediate closing player for the Warriors. I think immediately playmaker, get his own shot, get shots for others when teams try and take Curry away. The ball will find Draymond and then Schroder. Schroder will be running high pick and roll with Draymond. Schroder will be running high pick and roll with Kuminga. He fits with Kuminga, I think, pretty well. So I think having him out there with Draymond and Wiggins and Curry at the end of games offensively works really well. And he is a pesky defender who holds his own. And I think, with the Warriors system and culture defensively, he'll be able to do that. So kind of a nuisance, like I say, defender. And, the Warriors shouldn't be done. But they need another ball handler in a big way that can be a closing player. And the Warriors got him for nothing. I mean, it truly is the kind of risk, no risk, potential high reward deal that the Warriors only seemingly feel comfortable in making. Like, they only want to get the trade done that looks like an easy automatic win, right? Gave up an injured player who can't play for you and a net of 2 second-round picks for a guy who's a closer, and he's averaging 18 and 6. Regardless, the Nets were down with it, so the Warriors did it, and Dennis Schroder's coming to the Bay. He's already here, and he's going to play in Memphis when the Warriors are back in action next on Thursday. So I love the move, and they need him to help offset Steph at the end of games. And I think he also helps Kuminga because it takes Kuminga a little bit out of that role to where the Warriors are feeling like they have to feature him down the stretch at the end of games. The ball can be in Schroeder's hands, and Schroeder can make the play for Kuminga, or he can get it to Draymond, who can make the play for Kuminga. That's when Kuminga truly is at his best, as opposed to when the Warriors are going at him. And the Warriors may not be done. And we'll hear from Shams Charania coming up on that in just a moment. Here's what Kerr said, though, as far as fit. You heard my thoughts on it. Here's what the head coach had to say pregame before the Warriors faced the Mavs on the fit of Dennis Schroder with this Warriors team and how he'll be deployed. So there you go. Would seem to be a perfect fit next to Steph. And look, the night that DeAnthony Melton got hurt, the Warriors basically made the decision that DeAnthony Melton was going to be the starter for the foreseeable future next to Steph Curry. Again, different type of players. Schroeder is only 6'1", although he is rangy. He's got long arms. He does get in the passing lanes and force steals, and he does like to he'll pick your pocket a little bit. If you have a player in front of him that's a little bit loose on the handle. But again, it goes back to the Draymond conversation for me. In hearing Steve Kerr say that, you need your best players to be on the court as much as possible. You need to stop tinkering around with the starting lineup on a night in, night out basis. And this guy in one night, this guy in that. You got to play your best five and start your best five and figure out a rotation that works off of that. And it can be tinker here, tinker there. But again, Draymond coming off the bench is something that needs to stop. I would start Schroder at the 2 next to Steph as soon as he's comfortable. And the other part that Steve Kerr addressed in the pregame is just the fact that teams really now in the NBA, the way things have gone, is you need 2 guys that are primary ball handling, almost point guards. And this gives the Warriors that, which is something they really haven't had in an effective manner since Jordan Poole at the end of the 2022 season. Poole, a combo guard, but somebody who could really initiate and get downhill himself and get to the bucket and create for himself and have the potential to create for others as well. So I like the Schroder move. The other part of the Schroder move for me, Warriors should not be done. There was some reporting from Mark Stein and Jake Fisher on Substack, those two having their own reporting via Substack, that the Warriors would have had to have traded Jonathan Kuminga if they wanted to get Schroder and Cam Johnson from the Nets. We talked about this yesterday on Just Dubs, and Stein and Fisher report to acquire Schroder and Cam Johnson. League sources say it was also weighed by the Warriors, and they almost certainly would have acquired them. It would have required them to surrender Jonathan Kuminga to acquire. And look, I understand, as much as I've been at the forefront of those saying there may come a point where the Warriors have to understand that the best thing for the team would be to trade Jonathan Kuminga for a role player or in a package with a couple of role players. And I'm talking high-level role players like Schroder, like Cam Johnson. I understand why you don't want to do that on December 15th. I understand why, given the way Kuminga has played in the last month, you want to continue to let him grow and develop. You know he's going to be playing the 4 now. You're going to figure out your starting lineup with Draymond and whether Kuminga is going to be coming off the bench eventually or not, or whether you're just going to play Draymond at the 5 and Kuminga at the 4. However you address all of that, I understand wanting to give it another month to 6 weeks to figure out exactly where Kuminga fits. Let's see how much he explodes. Let's see if his trade value goes up, or if he puts himself in a category where he's truly untouchable. Because I don't think, and the reporting has indicated, that he is not untouchable. It's just that the Warriors value only an all-star player or even a superstar player in part of the package that they would deal Jonathan Kuminga. The problem with Kuminga only making the $7.6 million is that you would also have to send Andrew Wiggins back in that type of a deal, a la Jimmy Butler. But I understand the fact that you want to give it a little more time. You can't give it too long, though, if you deem that you still need to supplement this roster in ways that may not include the acquisition of a star, especially with the fact that you'd be looking to have to pay Jonathan Kuminga in a big way. I get it. I'm not saying the Warriors should have done it, but there may come a point where the Warriors have to take a hard look in the mirror. Every loss that they take between now and the deadline, every night that their record looks closer to mid than really good, I think that muddies the water. It, on the one hand, creates more urgency and pressure to get better, but on the other hand, it might make you less reluctant to trade somebody if you view the upside of Kuminga as greater than just a role player, even though that still is what he is at this given point of his career. But the timeline is such that you're going to have to pay him. So it's not an easy situation as it relates to that. But the reporting from Mark Stein and Jake Fisher that if the Warriors had wanted to get Cam Johnson, Kuminga would have had to have been in that deal with Brooklyn. We'll see if those teams reconnect. There's a lot of other teams in the league that are highly interested in Cam Johnson and big-time interested in looking to get Dennis Schroder, as the Warriors were, and then even Dorian Finney-Smith, who's playing a lot at that wing spot for the Nets. All right, let's hear one more from Shams Charania of ESPN. This was from yesterday, NBA Countdown at the Emirates Cup in Vegas, And he addressed, as he has a couple of different times, what the Warriors are still looking to do here. So still looking for a star, and still looking to maybe even move Schroder if another team wants him, and he could be a part of that equation there. And so look, the Warriors they're looking to do big things. They're looking to make some moves. They're looking to continue to be aggressive. And again, I think LeBron's a pipe dream. I think Jimmy Butler's interesting. I think the Schroder acquisition makes you more apt to go get a Jimmy Butler and be more comfortable than you otherwise would have been in an attempt to have to put Wiggins and Kuminga potentially in that deal, because now at least you have Schroder. So you would have Curry, you would have Butler, you would have Schroder, you would be losing Wiggins and Kuminga. So you'd basically be losing your 2 and 3 scorers now, but you'd be gaining 2 new 2 and 3 scorers. So I think that ends up being a part of what needs to get factored in as far as that goes. But no doubt the Warriors looking to continue to be aggressive and continue to add and continue to try and bolster this team the best they can, and not completely waste the 12 and 3 start here to begin the year. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open as well, as it is Dubs OT with JD here on Esports Leader. Warriors lose to the Mavs 143-133 as Golden State now, as I mentioned, 14-11 on the season. Warriors next in action on Thursday as they will take on the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis. A couple here from the chat, and then we're gonna go ahead and take a quick timeout, and then we will come back and we'll do some fun with numbers. We might play another cut or two from tonight's game, but I do want to get a couple from the chat here. FL Dubs fan overall compared to what we've seen lately. They shot a lot better tonight, but their defense was certainly was constantly late. Mavs were hot as a team, but as usual, Warriors gave up too many wide open threes. Yeah, too many driving kicks, too many issues there. Not what you need to see from the Warriors defensively. Andis Brown, Kuminga doesn't make enough of an impact on the defensive end with his athleticism. He needs a better mindset about defending and doing the dirty work. Wholeheartedly agree. There are nights where he does it. There are nights where he's engaged on it. But, yeah, tonight I don't think was necessarily one of those nights. And there's too many nights where it isn't enough of a part of what you get from Kuminga for somebody that is athletic. He should be a two-way contributor for the Warriors. He really should be. He should be a two-way player. I get that he's young. I get that he's focused on his offense. I get he's focused on getting the bag. But I think part of the evaluation of Kuminga moving forward is not just can he be a star offensive player, but he truly is somebody that should be able to factor on both sides of the ball. And I think he doesn't consistently do it, which I do think is something that factors as you look to do you want to pay him. And his 39 assists, 10 turnovers, that usually means 100% you're going to win. Yeah, so does the 27 threes, as we talked about as well. And yes, it was the most combined threes in NBA history for any two teams. Robert, if Podziemski plays more than Dennis, Kerr will need a lobotomy immediately. He's not going to play more than Dennis. Schroeder's going to be playing a lot. AJ Cruz, appreciate you chiming in earlier when Greg was a part of the deal. Lucky Trey, Buddy was horrible. Yeah, Buddy was not good tonight, and Podziemski was rough. tonight as well. San Jose Jazz fan 4, Schroder is a pest, but now he's our pest. I asked, AI confirmed, his quick feet and large wingspan make him an on-ball pest. Yes, 100%. That's a good AI scouting evaluation from our buddy San Jose Jazz fan 4. But, yeah, the Warriors need to continue to look to make moves. LM, I would put Dre back as the starter and move JK to the bench, balances offense and defense. I think Kuminga showed he could do it. To me, that's more a decision about, do you want to start a center next to Draymond? If you want to start Draymond and Looney with Schroder and Wiggins and Curry, then, and that brings Kuminga off the bench, you could come in and really give Kuminga a green light. You could play Kuminga and Schroder together with the bench group, which I think Kuminga and Schroder together could be some big-time offensive potency. I think those two running pick and roll could be really freaking good for the Warriors as it relates offensively. CB, I would have traded JK for Cam Johnson and Finney Smith. Not sure if that was the deal. Don't think JK for Cam Johnson 1-for-1 is good enough. Well, the salary, I mean, Cam Johnson's making $22 million, and Finney Smith, I think, is around 11. Or I mean, it would have been. I know for Cam and Schroder, it would have been $35 million in salary, so there would have had to have been a lot of salary added the other way. You drew down. The losses are adding up. Yes, they are. Chip Dingle, how long before JK is part of a deal for a star? Look, I think if that deal is there to be made, I think the Warriors are going to make it. I think if there's a deal to be made for Kuminga that gets you Jimmy Butler, like if that is true, if you're getting an all-star, I think the Warriors ultimately do that kind of a deal. I just don't think that deal is close enough to being consummated to the point where you're not. I just don't think it's close enough to be considered at that level yet. But I think the one thing that has been true for the Warriors, as much as the organization loves Kuminga at the high end, I think they would put him in a trade for a star. It just depends on for what star, what's that star's age, and how much else do you have to include in that deal to get the job done. Max Lopez, the only thing about swapping Melton in the deal for Schroder is if the Warriors are getting anyone with an established contract, both Wiggins and JK are going. That's true, because now you can't get a $20 million player for Melton and Kuminga. And so, yes. But again, I think adding Schroder and his offense would offset maybe losing some of Wiggins' offense if you specifically for somebody like Butler, who's going to be he's going to be a defender. He's going to be a terror. He's going to be the Jimmy Butler that you're not going to get Jimmy Butler unless you're going to get the Jimmy Butler of 2 years ago in the playoff run that led Miami to the finals. That's the Jimmy Butler, the guy who was getting the Heat to conference finals and finals. That's the Jimmy Butler you're getting, even at 35, or you think you're getting if you're going to include those two in a deal. Point blank, bottom line, end of story. So 808 KNBR, let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back here. We'll wrap things up with Fun with Numbers. More from the YouTube chat as well. We may even play another cut or two as the Warriors lose to the Mavs. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, welcome back. Final segment. It's Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. Warriors lose to the Mavs, 143-133. So they are 14-11. They've lost 8 of the last 10. We'll get to fun with numbers specifically here in just a second. We're going to get to the phones here as well at 808 KNBR and more from the YouTube chat. And I want to just everybody more in the YouTube chat is coming up here in a second too. But I want to thank everybody in the YouTube chat. We're doing some different things just to let everybody know. Tonight we started the show on YouTube, and we're kind of doing some trial and error as far as the ability to start on the stream and then join over the air. And so Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studios and Greg Silver's been a part of it, trying to make sure that we can toggle back and forth. And in toggling back and forth, I guess it created, sometimes you can't hear the music, or sometimes you couldn't hear Steve Kerr a cut. So we're trying to make sure that we get everything in the right order moving forward to where we can more seamlessly do that. So if you are watching and listening on YouTube, and maybe there was a portion that didn't you didn't get a chance, we're aware of it and we're working through it. And we're again trying to make it where we can go back and forth here from the air to the YouTube stream and make it seamless from Kyle's litter of computers that he's got there in the studios there in San Francisco. A lot of switches that have to all be in the right position to go back and forth without having the stream-only version go over the air and vice versa. So, appreciate everybody who chimed in. And, we need to know. If there's a cut that doesn't play, let us know in the chat or on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line, and we'll make note of it, and we can go back and get this thing dialed like the fine, well-oiled machine that we want it to be. Back to the phones. Ramo in the city next here on Esports Leader. What's going on tonight?
Hey, how you doing, man? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, man. What's up? What you got?
Good, man. It was a disappointing loss tonight. I mean, Paz didn't play up to the level he's supposed to play to. He hasn't been playing this whole season the level he's been playing to, but I have a couple trade propositions that I feel like the Warriors should go out and get. I mean, there's a couple teams. The first one's a high star. I mean, they're both high stars. But, of course, Antetokounmpo. I mean, the Bucks have been winning a lot. If I don't think we can get him maybe this season, but if we can try to get him next season to add to our team, that would be great. And we could pull off a big trade package for him. Moody, Looney, Kuminga, a couple first-round picks and some money. I don't know, maybe sweeten it up. And then a second player I was looking at that Kerr has instilled confidence in all his players, and I feel like he can change this player and have him want to play again. But why don't we just go out and go get Joel Embiid, man? He's on this. He's sitting. He doesn't want to play, But I feel like with a different team, a different mindset, we can go out and get Joel Embiid and have him as our center. I think that'll be a great trade proposition for the Warriors. Thank you for your time.
All right. I don't think either of those are necessarily on the radar for this season. I think Giannis could have been if the Bucks had continued to struggle, but the Bucks have been on a heater after an awful start. And Embiid is a name that I would definitely wonder about. The only thing with Embiid, and I think that would still be more of an off-season look for the Warriors as opposed to in-season, is you need the guy to be healthy. But he has clearly fallen out of favor in a big way in Philadelphia. And I think his name would maybe come up near the top of the list this offseason if the Warriors don't look to make a big move over the next couple of months here at the deadline. I think you could look to cash your chips in on Embiid. But again, that may mean you keep Kuminga and have to pay Kuminga, and then he ends up as a higher salaried player that goes in a deal. I don't think Giannis is going anywhere in the short term. Again, I think it's on the Bucks to prove that they can still be contenders to Giannis. Otherwise, Giannis may ask to go somewhere else. but I think they are trying to do that with the way that they've played over the last month, as opposed to the way that they played over the first month of the season. So I would say both of those are no's right now, but both are. And Embiid's a name that I haven't brought up because everything is so weird, and the fact that he's not playing and the situation with the reporter in Philly. Embiid's a name that I haven't brought up because I don't think he's at the forefront right now, given the drama. But I think he could definitely be somebody this offseason that gets moved and that the Warriors could look, if healthy, to make a potential run at. So not a crazy call, actually, believe it or not. 925 on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. Schroder seems like a perfect fit. Don't trade him later. No on Butler and LeBron. No on Butler and LeBron. I wouldn't be looking to trade Schroder at the deadline. But again, and I especially wouldn't be looking to trade Schroder for an aging star if you're already probably going to have to give up Kuminga and Wiggins to get an aging star. So maybe if it is a more youthful star, and anytime Shams, and he said it 3 or 4 different times, anytime Shams is like, hey, the Warriors are still looking for a star. We all know about Butler. We all know about LeBron. Those guys are on the old end. I kind of wonder who he's talking about among the younger end. Because that's where I kind of, would they be more in on somebody like Joel Embiid? Because there aren't a lot of stars just out there that are available and disgruntled, and teams are looking to move. So every time he says that, to kind of lead it back a little bit to Embiid, it makes me wonder, is there something maybe going on, like a bombshell blockbuster, many players on the move to do a real big-time reset? The one thing the Warriors are always skulking around on as many big-time star players as they possibly can look to find in the mix here. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. It's our final segment here. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Estimated eyes, the Warriors have been in a shooting slump lately. Kind of seems elementary to attack them that way. The Warriors have been slumping shooting. That came back tonight. The Warriors have played great defense. Tonight was really bad, though. And the Mavs have the ability to make you look that bad. But a few people have said, JD, you're being a little too hard on them for tonight. I just didn't like the effort, and I didn't like the fact that Draymond was coming off the bench for a game against the defending Western Conference champions and a team that can be that good. To me, that's too cute. That's getting cute. Not starting Draymond is getting cute. Not starting Draymond because Kuminga can play. The Draymond thing has nothing to do with Kuminga. Kuminga can start. But you just start Draymond with him at the 5, and you start Wiggins, and you just play your best player. And I think the Warriors have to get to a point where they just say, screw it. It's going to be Curry, Schroder, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond. Figure out the bench rotation off of that. And go from there. I think that gives the Warriors their best chance to be at their best. San Jose Jazz fan 4, give us a radio gutless. Yeah, for those who are watching on YouTube and Twitch, I did think the Warriors' first half effort defensively was gutless. Yeah. Gutless. And you know what, Kyle? The drop is better than me saying it. Gutless. So the first one. And again, maybe it's harsh. Maybe it's the 8 of 10 talking. I know the Mavs are a damn good team. I think probably when it's all told, a better team than the Warriors at the end of the year. I know they've moved in front of them in the standings here the last month as the Warriors have lost 8 of 10. And the Mavs got off to a funky start even after they came here and then have been playing much better basketball since. Draymond was a +4, says Andis Brown. Compare that with the starters. His impact on defense is needed too much to have him play. Yeah, 6 man. He cannot be the 6th man. That just doesn't work. Let's see. The Traveling Urquides. Hey man, I'm just happy watching Steph play. I think we all are. Drew Clown, I don't know how Schroder helps that much. Well, look, Dennis Schroeder's going to be the number 2 option for the time being. I'm not saying he is a bona fide number 2 option, but Dennis Schroeder's going to be a number 2 option. Like, for people that are denying that, like, he is going to get more opportunities. Nobody on this Warriors team is going to get more opportunities after Steph Curry to have the ball in his hands and make shots and make plays for others to get shots than Dennis Schroeder. No player. It's going to be Steph. It's going to be Schroeder, Draymond, and then, Wiggins, Kuminga off of that. But Wiggins and Kuminga are less apt to be doing it completely on their own. So, I want to make sure I'm saying this right. I'm not saying Schroeder is a legitimate number 2 option on a playoff team or, a second round playoff team. I don't think he is that good. But for this team right now where they are, he's going to be their number 2 option. And he's going to be their number 2 playmaker in a lot of ways. And again, I think he is a pest in a lot of other ways as well. Let's see. More here in the YouTube chat. Yeah, Luka was ridiculous tonight. I mean, he was on one, and he was absolutely phenomenal to watch. Yes, he does complain too much, as a few people have said. That's a fun debate, SGA and Luka. I'm going with Luka over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, I think Shai's terrific, but I'm going Luka. Over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Let's a couple more here, and we'll get to fun with numbers. Actually, you know what? Let's get a couple of cuts here, Kyle. And I know we didn't talk about this during the break, but let's hear on the Luka front. Let's go ahead and run 12:15D because Steve Kerr addressed it, and then we'll hear a couple of Klay Thompson cuts. Kerr addressed the biggest issue for the Warriors in this game.
The issue was Luka Doncic. That was the issue. I think they made their first 9 shots. I think he made three of them and had 3 more assists. And so he was incredible. And, give him credit, give Dallas credit. They've got a hell of a team, made the finals last year. They spread you out. They're as difficult to guard as anybody. And we tried a lot of different things, but really proud of our guys. They continue to fight night in and night out. We've lost 8 out of 10, and there's 0 quit. There's some disappointment, but there's 0 quit, and we're gonna climb out of this because of the character and the competitiveness of our guys.
So there you go. And look, I mean, Kerr has preached that a lot recently as the losses have started to pile up after the great start. And look, they're going to be tested. They got to get on a roll here because they are not going to get any breaks in terms of the schedule here coming up. A couple of more cuts. Let's hear a couple from I want to hear one more from Steve Kerr because Brandon Podziemski on the negative side of things was a big topic of conversation. Let's hear one from Steve Kerr on Podziemski. As to, I guess he was asked to, if he had a conversation with Podziemski after the game and obviously this tough stretch in the fourth quarter.
You spent like about a minute post-game talking to Brandon near the bench. I mean, he obviously had a disappointing game. Anything you can share, message?
No.
What did you think about his play tonight?
About Brandon, I thought Brandon did a nice job. He came in when Steph was out and, had a couple good stretches defensively. It's about, just coming every night and competing and playing. And that's what our guys are doing. And I'm very proud of them, as I said.
All right. So Steve Kerr not wanting to divulge, but trying to keep Podziemski's confidence up at this point, which I think is key. And look, it's keep his confidence up, even though he's probably going to be playing less and less, which I think is no easy task for a head coach, especially a head coach that may sense that the confidence has been lacking for a kid that's pretty confident, and that can be tough because he is a pretty confident individual. Let's hear a couple from Klay Thompson, and then one more from Draymond Green as well. As Klay Thompson, this was via Mavs television in the postgame, and Klay addressed a lot of the warmth that he continues to feel and felt tonight here in his second return back to San Francisco and Chase Center.
It still warms my heart to see all the number 11 jerseys. It still makes me incredibly grateful for the time I did have here. Legendary stuff. Well, now it's time to do some legendary stuff in Dallas. And I truly believe in this team. We have all the ingredients to be really special.
Yeah, legendary stuff that he contributed to. And again, yeah, all toward all sights forward for a team that was already in the NBA Finals a year ago, and believing that they have a shot to get back and have the potential to win it. And as we've talked about a lot here in the last 90 minutes, they're playing much better. They've got it dialed from the time that they came back in November. And if anything, these two teams kind of going in opposite directions from when they met a month ago, and the Warriors got that win late to improve their record on that night to 9-2 before eventually getting to 12-3. One more from Klay Thompson, and then we'll hear from Draymond Green talking about how much fun it was to get the win and how much fun it was to come back in extra time because of the Emirates NBA Cup.
I love shooting at Chase Center. I've been lucky enough to set records here and have incredible memories, so I try to tap into that every time I'm back. And it's just as fun as the first time I came back, especially seeing all the number 11 jerseys and seeing the young fans and seeing how much of an impact I was able to have while I was here to make people do.
And Klay had it dialed tonight. 7 of 11 from 3, 29 points. He was a team best plus 21. I mean, Luka had it going, and Klay really reaped the benefits. I mean, that is a quintessential 29 points, 9 of 14 shooting, 7 of 11 3, rebounded. He moved the ball. He had a couple of steals. I mean, Klay Thompson was terrific in this game tonight for the Mavs. So the season series 1-1. The Mavs, with the quirk created by the NBA Cup, they're going to have a third trip to Chase Center, just as the Warriors are going to have a third trip to Houston coming up here before the All-Star break. And the Mavs will be back at Chase again right after the All-Star break come February. All right, one more from Draymond Green, and then we'll get some fun with numbers before we call it a night here at Harmonic Brewing. Draymond Green, in his post-game media availability, shared his thoughts on Dennis Schroder joining the team and what kind of a fit he is for the Warriors.
I don't think he was necessarily brought here to fit. You know, we play a certain style of basketball that he does not really play. And I don't think the goal is to get him to play the style of basketball that we play. We need someone that can do the things that he does. And so I'm looking forward to us adjusting to him. Not necessarily, he'll have to adjust to some things, and he's a pro. He understands that. But we have to adjust to him because he's bringing something that this team needs. And to just think or make him fall in line of what we do, we wasting our time and even bring him here. Because we need somebody that can do what we necessarily don't do. And I think that's what he'll be for us.
Yeah, I think he is complimentary. I mean, we were discussing it. I mean, he really is complimentary to – I think he fits and he brings things that the Warriors don't necessarily do well. I mean, he's just kind of a wild card offensive player. He's a willing passer. He looks to score, pick and roll. He's feisty. He's a guy opponents don't like going up against. Like I think it's a nice balance. I think he can play with Steph, as Steve Kerr said before the ball game, and I think he's going to be somebody that's going to be a secondary handler in a lot of ways for this Warriors team that really needs that. All right, let's close it out on this note. Fun with numbers here as always. Warriors 7-5 at home. After they got off to a pretty good start, dropped the first one, then they were playing well at home, but now 14-11 overall. It's 8 of the last 10 in the loss column after the 12-3 start, and another 3 days in between games for the Warriors. They just had 3 before this one. They're going to have 3 again before playing at Memphis on Thursday. Mavericks even the regular season series at 1 apiece. The 27 threes, incredible, matched a franchise record on 50%. I mean, that is just absurd. The Warriors with the 27 threes and equaled the NBA record for 18.5 in the first half of this one. Tough to lose on a night where you hit 27 threes on a 50% clip, but the Mavs were that good in other areas. And the Warriors, another clutch game, goes in the loss column. Now 7-9 in 16 clutch games. The Warriors gave up 81 first-half points, most scored by a Warriors opponent in all games except for the game in Cleveland where they gave up 83. That was an ugly one back in early December. And the Warriors had 4 20-point scorers for the first time since the end of January last year. Game they lost to the Lakers by 1 in double overtime. On that night, as we mentioned, it was Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Klay Thompson, and Jonathan Kuminga. Tonight, it was Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, and Draymond Green, with Klay Thompson going for 29 on the other side, leading to the Mavs 143 to 133 victory over the Warriors tonight. All right, that's going to do it. Big thanks to Mike and Julia here at Harmonic Brewing. Big thanks to Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studios, and Greg Silver for joining me in the opening segment here on the YouTube-only portion of the show. We will talk to you on Thursday, immediately following the Warriors and the Grizzlies, and on Saturday following the Dubs and the Timberwolves. For everybody in the YouTube chat, appreciate you for all the callers and texters. Keep it locked on KNBR here tomorrow and throughout the week, as we'll be talking all things Golden State Warriors basketball and talking about whether there are more moves to be made after the Warriors acquire Dennis Schroder from the Brooklyn Nets. Talk to you Thursday right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
NBA history, 45 combined threes between the two teams. The record was tied Friday night with the Suns and Jazz. That's wild. New NBA record.
John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I just know they kicked our ass tonight.